Hello chess friends and welcome to Zadov's chess channel and welcome to our Basics in Chess series. So in this series we're following the opening principles, middle game strategies and the endgame strategies. Today we're continuing with some middle game strategies again. Today we're continuing with our series attacking themes in chess, and today we're continuing with the so-called E5 attack. It seems like it's nothing special, but this E5 attack is a very important strategical element, really an attacking subject that you should recognize in your own games when you have the opportunity to kick away your opponent's maybe minor piece with this E5 attack. Then you create very nice attacking motifs. Then you can create attacking chances. Then you can create attacking possibilities, which are really important in chess because we want to be on the attacking side. That's one of the most important principles in chess. Here I've already prepared a position for you. You see white has played the move e5. The knight was played on d5, and if you see this position, okay, so far nothing special has happened, but there are several things to recognize in this position already, and I've prepared the most important things that you should recognize about this e5 attack. And first of all, when we play this move e5, we created this deflection of minor pieces. So let's see this position. We have played the move e5, the knight has come onto this d5 square, and now you see black doesn't have any more minor pieces in front of the king. So for instance, if black castles here, then we can create a dangerous attack, as we can also recognize that we have created a space advantage, which is also a very important segment of the chess game. We have already occupied our opponent's fifth rank. On the other hand, our opponent hasn't occupied our fourth rank, so we have sort of a space advantage, which is also important in chess. So the other thing that is to recognize is that we have liberated this light square diagonal. So you see this bishop on c4 can be maybe remaneuvered here to d3 and create a dangerous attack against this h7 square. So this e5 attack is very important. So you see we have deflected this knight from the defense of this h7. The other important thing is that we want to keep the e5 pawn on the board. So it means our opponent will probably try to crack the position here on dark squares with the move c5, then take out somehow the pawn here on d4 and attack here our pawn on e5. If that happens, if you lose your e5 pawn, you will probably lose the game. So that's the dangerous thing about this e5 attack. You have to hang on to your space advantage, you have to hang on to your attack. So the other important thing is to support the e5 pawn, and if the position allows it, to create pawn chains. So it means one of the good ideas can be here maybe to attack the knight on c3 after recapture. Here, if black captures the knight on c3, then we can recapture with the b pawn, and then we would have a c3, d4, and e5 pawn chain. So this will be a really firm pawn structure, and then we can create our main attack. One of also important things is to recognize, is to coordinate your minor pieces on the king side. So it means you have to aim them on that side. You have to aim your pieces against your opponent's king side, because if we separate the board here on two halves, then you see our space advantage is simply formed here on the king side. So we shouldn't try attacks here maybe on the queen side. We should simply attack on the king side, because we have the pawn on the e file. We have separated our attack on the king side, as I said. So create flank attacks, also a common idea, and force your opponent to create further weaknesses. So it means if we play our flank attack with h4, h5, h6, for instance, or g4, g5, then we force our opponent maybe to play g6, h6 moves, and with no minor pieces on the board, this could be really deadly, because you don't have any more defenders. Then it's very good to create these flank attacks, coordinate our attack, as I said, on the king side, here aiming, and if the position allows it, maybe create even some minor piece sacrifices. So the first instructive game is a game played by Raymond Keene. It was from a simultaneous exhibition, but I think this game had really all of these elements that we have explained here. We have now already this advanced pawn. In the game, Raymond Green tried to play knight to f3, which is a very important move. It's a developing move, but it also supports our e5 space advantage. Here bishop to e7 was played, castling. Here queen to e2. It comes with the idea again to support our e5 pawn, so our opponent will try maybe crack the position with moves as f6 or c5. And that's what I meant. If your opponent, for instance, plays a move f6, then he has weakened further the pawn structure. Then this bishop to d3 idea is even more powerful. So in the game c5, played by black, you see white is simply staying onto this space advantage. Queen to c7, we have knight to c3, knight takes c3, and now b takes c3. Again, we have firmed this pawn chain. Now, if black captures the pawn on d4, again we would have the opportunity to play c takes d4, and again we are supporting even more our e5. So this is very important to recognize. We don't want to lose, as I said, this e5 pawn. We are trying to stay on this onto this pawn. So knight to d7 was played, bishop to g5. This is also a good idea because our dark square bishop is a little bit blocked out by its own pawns. The pawns are on dark squares. This bishop's activity of blacks is perfectly fine, but what we want to do is create now the so-called bad bishop position, in which black will continue with this very weak bishop on c8. If we trade off these bishops, maybe the knight can come here on g5, then queen to h5 is a possibility, and maybe bishop to d3, aiming simply against this weak h7 pawn. So in the game b6 was played, bishop to d3. Basically black helped white with this move knight to b6 because he attacked, but this attack didn't mean anything because we have now the bishop where we want to have the bishop. Now the bishop is aiming again against this h7 square. So g6, you see, this is what I meant. Black further weakened the pawn structure in front of the king with no defenders around the king. It's very dangerous. Now bishop to h6, rook to d8, now rooks to c1. If the position of course opens, then we would have very dangerous attacks against the queen on the c file. c4, not a problem. Bishop to b1, bishop to d7, and now h4. That's what I meant with this flank attacks. Don't hesitate. Here you have the opportunity to push the pawn, even further with the move h5, and then really crack the position around this g6, which is the new weakness, because as I said, black has pushed already some pawns. We have really forced him to do so, and now this flank attack really makes sense because the center is fixed. Nothing can happen. Basically we have a perfect attack now in the game. Knight to d5 was played, and now h5, simply continuing to push. Bishop to a3, now we have h takes g6, h takes g6, and now knight to g5. Here white even sacrificed the rooks for the exchange, but it's not a problem because after rook takes c1 we have now a perfect harmony. The bishop is aiming on a very active square, knight is very dangerous, bishop is dangerous, queen can come into the attack. Still maybe we can try to improve the rooks somehow, maybe rook to e1, rook to e4, rook to h4, creating sort of an improvement of the position of the piece. Queen to c6 was played, but not a problem. Queen to g4, here a knight to e7, and now queen to h4. You see black has some dark square problems after giving up here the dark square bishop for the exchange. In the game rook to f8 was played, and now you can pause the video and try to find the winning move. It's of course a great move, but not so hard to see, I think. In the game Raymond Keene played the move bishop to g7, and in this position black resigned. There's nothing he can do. There are two checkmate threats on h7 and h8. I think this was a very instructive game about this e5 attack. Here Raymond Keene applied all of these elements that we have explained in the game, and this was a cool attack, I think, by this very powerful master. So let's see now another example. It's a game played by David Bronstein, here with the white pieces. Again we have an attack, this e5 attack, again deflecting the knight on d5, and here Bronstein's opponent played, I think, much more active, much more aggressively against white's attack. He already challenged here this d4 with the move c5 and knight to c6. So here black tried really counter-attacking. In the game now d takes c5 was played by David Bronstein, which is a good idea, I think, releasing a little bit the pressure in the center, still staying with our space advantage on the e5, but here I think black could have caused some troubles around the square d4. In the game, bishop to c5 was played, and again this move queen to e2. You see how important it is to stay simply onto the space advantage. Very, very important thing. So here castling, queen to e4 was played with the preparation to play bishop to d3. Then you see black again has this h7 problem because the knight isn't there protecting the h7, so that's why it's very important now to already force your opponent to create further weaknesses. In the game, knight to e7 was played, knight to c3, and now a6, trying to kick away the bishop, bishop to f4. Again, a supportive move. I'm pointing you out again, supporting simply this e5 pawn. In the game, knight to g6 was played, bishop to g3, queen to c7, rook to e1. Now we want to play maybe something like queen to g4, rook to g4, simply playing around this supported pawn and trying again maybe some attacks on the h file or on the g file. In the game, b5, bishop to d3, bishop to b7, now queen to g4, knight to e7, and now knight to g5, again with the idea to maybe play something like queen to h3 and again attack this h7. But again, black can defend against this attack, but what we want to do is force our opponent to further weaken the pawn structure in front of the king. Then it's not such a compact position. The knights are really on unnatural squares. We would love to have our knights maybe here on d5, maybe we would love to have them on d4. Now these two knights are basically only defensive pieces, which is not good, of course. And in the game, rook to d8 was played by black. Here bishop to b1, also common maneuver, simply improving the position of the bishop, but staying on this very active diagonal. So in the game, rook to d4 was played, knight to e4, covering everything, and now bishop to a7. We have queen to h5, attacking this h7 weakness, and now h6. And here David Bronstein found a great move. He played the move knight to f6, sacrificing the piece. Here after g takes f6, we have e takes f6, attacking the knight. Here rook to h4 had to be played, but it's not a problem, we can simply take. And here black tried h takes g5, but again it's not a problem. We have now the opportunity to play queen to h6, and now basically the game is over. You cannot do anything, and in this position black resigned. So you see how dangerous this attack can be. But first, really, we have to support this e5 pawn. If we lose the e5 pawn, you see black tried to counterplay here, tried to create dangerous counterplay here. David Bronstein, I think the cool move in this position was to simply play this move d takes c5, releasing the pressure, not allowing black to counterplay anyhow. And here queen to e2 followed with bishop to f4, regrouping, knight to c3, rook to d1, really calm and natural moves. And in this position, I think in this game Bronstein played really a great attack. So let's see now this attacks in top engine level. Here is a game played by the top engine Stockfish, and how Stockfish attacks, this is really something else. So Stockfish creates really dynamics, Stockfish creates really attacking possibilities. That's why I decided to show you one of these games. This was played from this TCEC season 17, so it's a fresh game. It has been played a couple of days ago, but I found this game, and this game also explains this tactical elements of this common attacking theme very well. In the game here, e5 again played by Stockfish, creating the space advantage. Knight to g4. Here we have bishop takes c6. This is a positional move, taking out this knight, which is the attacker against our e5. So as I said, we want to stay with our e5 pawn on the board. We have d takes c6, now h3, simply attacking the knight, kicking away the knight. We have knight to h6, d3, and bishop to g7, and now knight to e4. You cannot, of course, take the pawn already. You can attack it twice, but the main problem here for black is that this bishop is aiming. When this bishop leaves the defense of this knight on h6, then the knight would be hanging, so the knight is a little bit out of game. In the game, b6 was played, and now a4, creating a blocking system on the queen side. As I said, we are coordinating our attack on the king side. But when our opponent is trying some dangerous attacks on the queen side, we want to create some kind of a blockade here, not allowing him to go fastly into the attack. Here a4 perfectly fine. A5 we have knight to g3, bishop to e6, queen to e2. Again, this move supporting our pawn. This pawn has to be protected, although it seems that the queen is now in defensive style, but it's really not so. The space advantage is very important here. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but you have to memorize these types of positions. Bishop to d5, and now castling. Here bishop takes f3 was played, and now queen takes f3. Now again you cannot take because of this tactical threat. Bishop to h6 is the possibility, so that's why queen to d5, and here queen to e2. Again you cannot take, the same thing happens. Castling, now bishop to f4, we have e6, knight to e4. Again you cannot take because your knight is hanging, so knight to f5, g4, very important move, and now knight to d4, queen to d1. And the problem is now here Stockfish calculated this very well. If you take, for instance, bishop takes e5, we have bishop takes e5, queen takes e5, but now c3 is the problem. You don't have a good square for your knight. In the next move you lose the knight because the queen is not covering anymore the b3. So great tactics here by Stockfish. c4 was played. Now we have rook to e1, and here b5 was played. Here bishop to g5, c takes d3, queen takes d3. And again, if you take, for instance, here this pawn, then this threat is to play knight to f6. If you take it with the bishop, then I think knight to f6 is very dangerous, because now after giving up your dark square bishop, the queen could sneak in here to dark squares and you will be probably get checkmated. So this is, I think, a very aggressive attack by Stockfish, because it seems that this e5 pawn is hanging, but in one moment here this other engine cannot take this e5 pawn, never. So that's the main problem here. Stockfish hang on to this pawn by simply not defending it with some great tactical possibilities. After queen to c4, queen to d1 was played, and now b takes a4. We have bishop to e7, rook to b8, and now rook to c3, rook to a3. Very important move with the preparation to play rook to c3. So here c5 was played, rook to c3, and now queen to b5, and here Stockfish simply took. I'm not going to show you now the whole game. The whole game will be in the description below. I just wanted to show you how dangerous this attack can be. Here I hope you realize Stockfish has a great game now, still with some possibilities to play this dangerous knight to f6 idea, forcing black to take and then sneak in somehow through dark squares and again attack the king. Although the game was prolonged for a couple of moves, but Stockfish played really an attacking brilliancy. I think I'll cover this game in this TCEC season 17 that I'm following now, but I just wanted to show you the common attacking themes, attacking ideas, how you should make progress. Sometimes you see it's possible to create this dangerous attack by simply pushing a pawn, but you have to apply this principles of this very important e5 attack. So let's repeat it again. Deflection of minor pieces, very important. Your opponent doesn't have any more defenders in front of the king. Space advantage, very important. We have already attacked our opponent's other side of the board, liberating light square diagonal, so there could be some h7 attacks. Keep e5 pawn on the board, so you don't want to lose this pawn. If you see that you're losing it, you will probably lose the game. So support the e5 pawn with some pawns, with some minor pieces. Even with the queen, you saw that you have to support the pawn, coordinate the pieces on the king side. So you have to create attacking possibilities on the king side, try to create blocking systems on the queen side, create flank attacks, try to open the position in front of your opponent's king and force pawn moves. Pawn moves are always dangerous for your opponent. When he creates pawn moves, then he creates further weaknesses, and then maybe your minor pieces will have a better activity, and you can exploit these weaknesses very easily. So okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you understood these ideas. These are really common attacking themes. I hope I can help you out with this attacking possibilities. Meanwhile, you can watch my other basics in chess series videos with some more opening principles, middle game strategies, and end game strategies. And you can also watch my chess tactics and chess puzzles videos, in which I show you all of the possible tactical motifs that can happen to you in a chess game. And you can also subscribe to my channel if you like this content. Thank you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.